What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode. Just wanted to start by saying thank you guys for all the support, all the positive comments. Appreciate you guys taking time to listen to us talk every week. Um, this week we're going over the coaching carousel, what's going on in the NFL. Got to touch on the Eagles for my guy Noah, and touching on Week 12 and some other things that are going on. But I just wanted to say thank you so much to Noah and my dad for a massive surprise for my 27th birthday that's coming up, getting me some Travis Scott tickets. So me and Noah will be at the Travis Scott show in Philly. He doesn't know I'm recording this intro, but I just wanted to say thank you for the surprise. So Big Gene, Noah, unbelievable surprise for my birthday. Can't thank you guys enough. So yeah, let's get in the episode. I know Jack Harlow is white, but I hate him. I know that we're supposed to stick together from time to time, but I just don't know what it is. I just don't like him at all.
I don't mind him. I think he makes catchy music, but he's not somebody I'm going to actively request, I don't think.
Yeah, okay. Okay, buddy.
I was I before we get started, I actually had my my 2023 wrapped or whatever you would call it, but for Apple Music, and to no surprise, Drake was at the top, Travis Scott was second, 21 Savage was third, and then I think it was Future and Uzi.
How do you check that?
I got an email about it. So probably through that. I don't know if you can do Spotify yet, but
I saw somebody post it. Let me take a look here.
I mean, if I were to guess, it would be Travis Scott, Future. Actually, no, I would say Travis Scott, Drake, Future. Maybe Frank in at 4.
Dude, I think I think that I think Affix Twin is going to be in my top 5 this year.
Apex Twin.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, whatever the fuck it is, because I've been listening to whatever that is. Like, I don't know if it's a person or like a band or whatever, like a lot.
Yeah, I don't know exactly if it's one guy or not or girl, but I know who you're talking about.
Like literally no, I don't know what it is, but they make great music.
That's fair.
Before we get into it, as well, hold on, let me check some last thing here. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think that I don't know what email I use for Spotify.
How many do you have?
That's personal, man.
That's fair.
Dude, that's really personal. So this is the craziest thing ever. So me and Sprac, like last week, we are on FaceTime and I go, no way the Bills make the playoffs. He goes, the Bills are going to beat the Eagles. I said, yeah, okay, pal. And then from there I go, I'll bet you $50 that the Bills don't make the playoffs. He says, okay, deal. So I text him today and I said, hey, remember when you said the Bills are going to make the playoffs? They have a 16% chance. I said, I will start taking my payment in pennies whenever you're ready as a joke. He then sends me a screenshot from 2020.
Oh my God.
A DM of me and him talking about the Steelers season. And I said, I don't think the Steelers will win 7 games. and they made the playoffs that year. It was Big Ben's last season. And he goes, I'm not going to pay until you pay this one. And there's no dollar amount in the DM. There's no like, it doesn't say like, I bet you $50 that they won't do that. And I was like, I go, where does it say the money? And he goes, we did it on FaceTime. And I said, we lived together during this DM. So
this was when the Steelers were the worst 10-0 team in all of history.
yeah, and listen, whatever, good for him. And then I said, first off, why didn't you bring it up the other day? And then I said, and why did it take you 3 years to bring up that I owed you $50 for this? And he just pretty much was like, oh, like I just was happy that the Steelers made the playoffs. So don't know what's going on with that guy, but that is really fucking weird, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, they were 11-0, but also, how did you even remember that you make that bet 3 years ago?
I said like screenshot this, and it was like a DM, but like that was so long ago, and I was just like, bro, like I don't know what to tell you. Like you should have asked for the money. He was like, I just was happy that the Steelers made the playoffs. I was like, then why'd you bring it up now?
Yeah, I think that's past the statute of limitations for a bet.
I completely agree, and it didn't seem to be that big of a deal when we made a second bet, but Bills are missing the playoffs. To get into that game, the Eagles, with maybe one of the most signature wins of the entire season, in my opinion, and a signature Jalen Hurts performance, and him, in my opinion, pretty much icing the fact that he won MVP. I mean, that was probably the biggest win of the year.
Yeah, probably the best game of the season so far.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, dude, that game was insane. Jake Elliott kicking a 59-yarder to tie it. Brandon Graham at the coin toss to go into OT, telling Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis, after they decided to take the ball, that it doesn't matter, we're winning anyways.
Saw that.
Insane. And then Jalen Hurts leading them down the field and sealing that game was crazy. I mean, Mamba mentality out of Jalen Hurts. I think he can you have the Mamba mentality without winning a championship yet?
I mean, probably.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is a perfect example of that. Guy has zero quit in him. Did not play well in the first half, and he's unreliable. He turned it on in the second half. He's there when you need him. I mean, I went through so many emotions watching this game. It was crazy. I mean, we can go like into the in depths of it, but
yeah, I think first thing that probably we should say is Jake Elliott probably made one of, other than the Adam Vinatieri snow field goal, probably the second most impressive field goal like in NFL history, in my opinion. 59 yards in the pouring. It was literally pouring down rain, and he absolutely nailed it. It was, and with the game on the line to send it into OT, like just absolutely ridiculous field goal. So shout out to him. Never thought I'd see anything like that. I thought the game was completely over when they had to kick that, but he hit a piss missile and went right through. So that was amazing. And then for Jalen Hurts to kind of turn it so much around in the second half, and he was literally the reason why they won the football game just through his play. It's the definition of the MVP. I was saying for the last couple weeks, maybe not on here, but to my friends, like I think CJ Stroud should be the MVP just because he took a Texans team, and if they make the playoffs, like, and he has the best passing stats, like, makes the most sense. But I don't think any quarterback in the league this year is going to have two signature wins over who everybody in the NFL says are the best teams, the prohibitive Super Bowl favorites before the season started, and the favorite quarterbacks, and Josh Allen and the Bills, and uh, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks, being down at halftime, overcoming the deficit, and winning both of those games, one in overtime. Absolutely ridiculous tear that Jalen Hurts is going on right now, and I just think he completely iced the conversation.
Yeah, I was listening to Rosillo and Todd McShay, and they were talking about Jalen Hurts today. And Todd McShay said that game on the line, there's probably only two guys in the NFL at the quarterback position who he trusts, and it's Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. And I mean, truly, I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
The the development of Jalen Hurts has been movie like as far as where he started and how far he's come as a quarterback in such a short time. Um, he obviously he went through what he did at Alabama, went to Oklahoma, and still had a good year. Heisman. He didn't win the Heisman, did he?
Finalist.
Heisman finalist, drafted in the second round. Struggled a little bit when he came in, and then he's a top. Now he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I guess if you could remind me of the time he struggled, because he's 31-4 as a starter, so not much struggle there in Jalen Hurts' career.
I'm referring to kind of that first year he wasn't great, and that's when he came in late in the season.
Yeah,
Like that, he didn't look like what he did right now.
fair.
Is my point.
So there's two things that I want to touch on. Then, if you have anything else you want to add, obviously you can. Raheem Palmer from The Ringer, love the guy, amazing dude. He is on a week to week basis, even after the Bills win, going on record and saying that the Eagles are a fraudulent football team. And he's drawing comparisons, not just him, other people are drawing comparisons to last year's Vikings team with the one score wins. I don't think that is an even remotely fair comparison in any way, shape, or form. Just strictly out of the fact of the Eagles were the best team in the league last year and went to the Super Bowl. Then you turn around this year and you're 10-1. You're finding a way to win tough games. You have the exact same core intact that you did for the Super Bowl run last year. To even slightly compare the Vikings team last year to the Eagles team this year is absolutely egregious, and I think like completely out of line.
So I have their schedule pulled up from last year. And let me read you off these games that they won by one possession.
I know the Bills was one.
So they beat the Lions 28-24. They beat the Saints 28-25. They beat the Bears 29-22. Dolphins 24-16. Cardinals 34-26. Commanders 2017. Bills 33-30. They got dogged by the Cowboys 40-3. They beat the Patriots 33-26. Jets 27-22. Colts 39-36. Giants 27-24. Got dogged by the Packers. And then beat the Bears at the end of the year 29-13. So I don't think that is an even remotely accurate comparison, or a fair one at all. I think if you watch the games, you see the talent on this Eagles team, and it just doesn't really compare. Like this Viking schedule is nothing special.
No, and on top of
You
it,
play the Bears twice. You played the Giants. You played the Jets. I'll give them credit. The Bills win is good. You played the Patriots, but the games that getting dogged out by the Packers, and I mean the Cowboys are good, so I understand them losing that game. It's not even close.
Yeah, and that was a year last year that I mean, the Lions aren't the same football team in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
They missed the playoffs. The Packers missed the playoffs last season as well. So take those wins for what they are. But I've heard him say it like a few times now, and I was just like, that having a team that went to the Super Bowl last year and they're off to a 10-1 start, winning tough games, and have the entire same core intact is not anywhere close to having whatever run the Vikings went on last season, like in any way, shape, or form. So just wanted to get that out of the way. And the next thing I want to talk about is something that we've talked about probably the last 3 weeks is the swing on the quarterback position where the Eagles had their guy in Carson Wentz. They took somebody in the second round, which if nowadays pretty much like if you're a quarterback taken in the second round, you're pretty much a write off. And he is literally, in my opinion, the second best quarterback in the league, right behind Mahomes. Like, and I don't think that it's really arguable, but it just goes to show you that like you can take these top guys, but it doesn't mean that you have somebody. Jalen Hurts fell to the second round, and he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I have a couple of things. So I do think that being a good team involves being lucky sometimes. And I think in order to win a Super Bowl, you have to be lucky at times throughout the season. You have to have the ball roll your way. And that's something that I've said this entire time. No, nobody wins a Super Bowl without a little bit of luck or the ball bouncing your direction throughout the season. That's just how it works. It's not easy to win in the NFL. And I mean, I'm not going to apologize for winning.
They're 10 and 1. They're 10
Yeah.
and 1. It's not like they're 10 and 1. It's
Yeah.
not like they're uh have 4 or 5 losses. They are legit 10 and 1.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah. I was going to say about the Jalen Hurts thing that you just mentioned. So much of it depends on the organization and the guys in that on that coaching staff. I mean, I feel like this is pretty obvious. Like those things are super important as to developing a guy and truly seeing what you have in the NFL, because guys are just getting written off left and right, but they're just in terrible situations.
Fair.
And obviously there are guys that are going to be misses. But I think we see a lot of situations where there's just terrible, excuse me. These college kids are being put into terrible situations. And I mean, maybe if things happen differently, they're a different player, but it's a lot of it just depends on where you go.
Yeah, and I think that kind of swings perfectly into the next thing that like I wanted to talk about today was the coaching carousel that Adam Schefter released a report like 2 days ago that said that an upwards of 10 coaches could be fired during this football season. I personally don't really remember that many coaches being let go after a football season being over.
That'd be a
But
lot.
but like, and then I went through it and I was like, you know what? Like, it's actually like pretty realistic. So even these guys going into the situations where the coaching staff is viewed as shaky is pretty crazy. So the list of coaches that I have, one, this is the list that's already fired, which is Josh McDaniels, and we didn't talk about this, but Frank Reich got fired before the season was even over. Shortest coaching tenure in the last 60 years. Got fired not even a year in. Then on the hot seat, I have Brandon Staley, Chargers, Riverboat Ron, Commies, Dennis Allen, Saints. People aren't talking about this one, but Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys, if they don't win a playoff game this year, I think there's a pretty decent chance that they can move on from him. Mike Vrabel with the Titans, there's a big rumor going around the league currently that there's a lot of tension with him in the front office and he doesn't like how things are getting ran. So That's another one. Bill O'Brien, or I mean, not Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick, which is
Bill O'Brien too, probably not
yeah,
head coach, but
Bill Belichick with the Pats. I mean, that's been one that's been talked about a lot. I wrote down Saleh, even though it's not. I wrote down beside it, how the hell does he still have a job? Stefanski, maybe. I don't know. That's kind of been a question mark there. It's kind of been the year from hell from them from like a coaching standpoint. And then one that people have been throwing around, but I don't really see much validity in is Sean McDermott with the Bills. I know I hate on the Bills a ton. People need to kind of remember that Sean McDermott took the Bills to the playoffs before Josh Allen showed up and ended their like 15-year playoff drought. So I think his leash is a little bit longer than like what people kind of are giving him currently. I think probably what's realistic is them clean house and then kind of like start fresh and give him another chance, because you can't they're not going to get rid of the guy that has led them to the playoffs before Josh Allen and after Josh Allen got there and has been generally pretty successful throughout his time there. I just think it's they're needed a reset. So that's one coach that I hate on, but I don't really see the path. If they get rid of him, I'd be shocked. And whoever gets him next, it's probably a pretty lucky organization.
yeah. A couple names. The Dennis Allen Saints coach, I was a guy that we didn't talk about a lot, but
Yeah.
definitely deserved to be talked about and to be on the hot seat. Like coming into the year, people were expecting the Saints team to win like upwards of 12 games probably just
It
because of
was
how light their schedule is.
that's a yeah,
And
it was a big point of contention about how easy their
and
schedule was.
they have just not looked good all year. They are like, no disrespect to the Falcons because they have a decent defense, but that there's no reason for them to be losing to the Falcons.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
they should be atop of that division, and they just haven't put it together. Um, another there was another one that I had. I
Stefanski,
I'm drawing
Saleh,
up. Yeah.
Belichick, Vrabel, McCarthy, Riverboat Ron, Staley.
Oh, another guy that I was kind of thinking of, um, potentially Matt Eberflus. What do you think about that one? Because I saw
Yeah,
his name out there a little bit, and I'm just unsure about that. Like, he could easily get fired because the Bears are not good, and uh, it feels like his seat isn't as hot maybe as it should be. Like, if they decide that they want to keep Justin Fields, I could potentially see them moving in another direction with him. Although he is a defensive minded head coach, and that defense has looked a lot better as of late.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
and then the last thing I wanted to just say was the Sean McDermott point that you made. I think he does have a little bit longer of a leash. Um, I will say these last 2 weeks that Bill's offense has looked significantly better since Joe Brady started calling it. So I think that it would be realistic for him to keep that OC job and clean house elsewhere.
yeah. First thing, I wanted to talk about the Bears. I've kind of forgot to write it down. What I personally see happening with the Bears is now, and I know that we just said this last week, so it's just so hit or miss every single week. My official prediction for the Chicago Bears during this offseason is one, their offensive coordinator is a guy who is getting heavy buzz for a head coaching position. I think he stays. I think Eberflus stays. I think that they were kind of dealt the year from hell, honestly. They had a ton of injuries on defense. They had a ton of injuries on offense. You were starting Teabag for 6 weeks. I mean, nobody is expecting to win games with Teabag behind the helm. But what I do think happens is they're going to end up ultimately trading um, Justin Fields. I think probably the package that you get for him, because at this point in time, they have the first pick and the third pick. They probably are going to end up with the first pick and the second pick. So at this point in time, it's like, okay, we are going to move on from Justin Fields. the compensation for Justin Fields is, I think that we are going to get like a Sam Darnold 2.0 deal, like a second and a fourth. So a lot of teams are in contention to go and trade for Justin Fields. I think that's realistic. I think even a contending team who wants a backup for $1.6 million is able to go out and grab somebody like Justin Fields. Next, I think that they go ahead and grab their quarterback of the future. I don't think Ryan Poles has been doing a terrible job. Just the only probably really egregious trade was Mapletron. But other than that, like, I think that they have some like young nice pieces. DJ Moore was a great get. Montez Sweat's already making an impact. Jalen Johnson's a good corner for them. So I think that they have good young players. I just think it's going to take time to build this out. And I think the way that this coaching staff buys time and the front office buys time is to move on from Justin Fields, give him a fresh start, and take whatever quarterback they see fit at the number one spot.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if they end up with 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, they end up getting a quarterback and probably Marvin Harrison Jr. or a
The
quarterback and
the
like
tight
Olu Fashanu or somebody.
is that the Penn
Another
State tackle?
Yeah, the tackle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably
solidify their
that's
O
what I would
line.
that's what I would personally predict probably is you take a quarterback and you take a tackle and you're set.
Yeah, and then I mean their cap space is, now that I actually think about it, they have a boatload of cap space. They could end up trading or signing a better receiver in the offseason. Maybe somebody that's a little like a more proven guy, because I mean obviously you can get a Marvin Harrison at 2, but it, he's he's as much of a lock as you're going to get, but still you don't know what happens.
No.
Or they
I
could use it to draft a no lineman. Who knows? Or to sign a no lineman.
Yeah, exactly.
They
I
have a
think
lot of good options if they end up with 1, 2, or 1, 3 with the amount of money that they have this offseason.
I think what would have to happen over the next 6 weeks of the season, however much time's left, is Justin Fields would literally have to play out of his mind.
Yeah.
And I think last night was kind of a tell-all sign and a writing on the wall moment when they like didn't score a touchdown. It was like, well, Justin, if you want to keep your job around here, you got to do better than that. You can't fumble twice in crunch time. You can't make those types of mistakes. You can't take these sacks. So can definitely see him getting moved on from. But with that being said, I do think he has a future in the NFL. I hope the Falcons go and grab him.
Yeah, I think I might have just talked myself into buying stock in the Bears right there.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Bear. I might be a big Bears fan this offseason, and not like actual fan, but they're in a great spot is my ultimate point here. And I do agree with you. I think Justin Fields does have a career in the NFL. I think he just needs to be put in a different situation, even though rarely do we see a situation where a first round guy is traded and he ends up doing well, but
Yeah.
anything can happen.
Yeah, for sure. So then I wanted to go over the top hires that are out there right now. One that like just completely gets swept under the rug, I feel like, is Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, in my opinion, is like the premier hire out there currently in the NFL. For people who don't know, he is the Cowboys defensive coordinator. He took the Falcons to a Super Bowl. He is the real deal. His defense is top tier, and he is elite at scouting talent because with the Seahawks back in the day and what he's doing now is you take these guys who are later round draft picks. You look at Deron Bland, he's a 5th rounder, and they develop them really well. They make them smart players, and they become actually like game changers on the defensive side of the football. And that's what you want out of a coach. The next one is Lou Anarumo, Big Lou from the Bengals.
Cincy.
He's definitely out of there. The Bengals are probably going to go on a little bit of a downswing over the next few years, just based on how everything's set up. Ben Johnson, the OC for the Lions. I know Adam thinks that he's going to be the UNC head coach. Well, that's not going to happen.
That guy could get 10 coaching jobs in the
In the
NFL as a head
NFL,
coach this year.
yeah,
Dude, there are teams that would, if teams knew they could hire him, they would fire their head coach right now.
yeah. I think that's a going to be a bit after their postseason run. Obviously, I don't think that they're going to win the Super Bowl, but their postseason run that they have, I think Ben Johnson's going to be out of there after this year. Next one, is I feel very strongly about this one. Jim Harbaugh is going to be a coach in the NFL next year. What college football did to him and what the Big Ten did to him this year, regardless of like fandom or anything like that. Like somebody gave a point of like, if this was Nick Saban, do you think the president of the SEC would say a word about this or just wait until after the season? What they did was, in my opinion, in the middle of the season, just wrong. They just did him wrong all year, and I just don't think that college football deserves a coach like that. So I think you probably see him go back to the NFL. Um, Eric Bieniemy, I know that's always a name that pops up around this time. He seems to never be able to land one, so I guess we'll see. And this one has kind of been in the works for a really long time, but the heir to Bill Belichick, the linebacker coach for the New England Patriots, is Gerard Mayo. That has pretty much been a big set in stone once Bill Belichick either retires or steps down or whatever, that Gerard Mayo is going to take over head coaching duties for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I think another guy that I just saw today is that Brian Johnson, the Eagles OC, has been considered is being looked at as a head coach, which
that's so crazy to me.
That's crazy to me. Yeah. Watching every Eagles game and kind of just seeing how it feels like it takes a half for them to get going, but I don't know. That's just another name that I saw out there today. I mean, whatever. I don't know if I would be too upset about it. I mean, as long as Jalen Hurts is healthy and he has somebody like one person to block and one person to throw the ball to, then I think he'll be all right. But yeah, the big name is that I always think about is Eric Bieniemy. I think we've been waiting for him to kind of get a head coaching job for the last like 5 years now, and it just hasn't happened. And now he's finally in a spot where the head coach is probably going to be gone by the end of the year. And we might actually get a chance to see what he can do as head coach. And then I do like, it was Gerard Mayo from the Pats. Yeah, I think that's a guy. I think the Pats could be an interesting spot. I know that Vrabel went there, and it feels like Vrabel would be a great head coach in New England. Now, the amount of talent that they have on that team is so minuscule that it would still take a while for them to get back to relevancy, I think. But I think if there's a guy to turn that franchise around, it could be Vrabel. Mm-hmm. It feels like guys really like playing for him. He has an identity. He wants to punch you in the mouth. He's probably if the Titans were good, I think he would be getting as much like hype as Dan Campbell, because I feel like they're kind of similar, but the Lions are just good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like all of these guys are great hires from the outside looking in. Obviously, people thought Matt Patricia would be a great hire for the Lions like 3 years ago, and he was probably one of the most disastrous like head coaching hires like ever. So, like I remember there was like I saw some article like it was like this offseason's like can't miss head coaching candidate in Matt Patricia, and it was just like cold takes exposed. Like it's just a bad look. I guess
why the Lions thought it was a good idea to have him come in and coach anything offensive related is just mind-boggling.
These guys make bad mistakes. I mean, like real quick, like David Temper, like the Carolina Panthers owner, it's like he bought the team in 2018. He went and hired they fired the first coach and they went and hired Matt Rule, who's never
they had coached. Riverboat Ron.
Yeah. Then they went and they fired him. They went and got Matt Rule, who never coached an NFL football team before. That didn't work out. Had hired an interim, fired the interim. Now they're on. Then they hired this coaching staff, fired him, and he also owns a semi-professional soccer team, and he's been through 2 coaches on the semi-professional soccer team too. So it just seems like
That's rough.
this guy has really high expectations for like what's going on, but doesn't really take into account like the state of his roster and what's happening. There's a story going around right now that during the week that he went up to the offensive coordinator and passed him a piece of paper with a play on it and told him that he wanted to run the play during the week. So this
That's some
seems to
longest yard shit.
this seems to be one of like the owner way too involved situations, but I guess my next question to you is like, out of all of the coaches and jobs and everything listed, which destination and team is most desirable to you for you personally, and which coach do you feel that you want to see go somewhere? I know that you said Vrabel to the Patriots, but is there any other ones that you would want to take over, and then obviously a coach that you want to see go somewhere?
I think Brian Johnson falls in that category. Not Brian Johnson. Ben Johnson, sorry. I think he's a guy that could step in right away and be like a D'Amico Ryans if
Okay.
he has the right pieces around him. I mean, I'm not saying he needs like any type of elite quarterback, but I just think he's so smart on the offensive side of the ball and putting it together that um I, I'm trying to just like kind of think of a team that he would fit really well on that might have really good like players on offense that he could kind of lead them. Like honestly, I would love to see what he like. This would be my made up scenario. The Falcons fire their head coach and hire Ben Johnson and bring in Justin Fields. I would absolutely love to see that.
Hmm.
I think that would be a very interesting story to follow throughout a season. Um, I think the Falcons have dudes all over that offense, and they just need some type of creative mind to run that team.
Unfortunately, the Falcons are going to win the division and make the playoffs, so you're
I
not going
know.
to see Arthur Smith get fired.
I know.
But with that being said, that's a good one. The one that I am predicting that happens. Well, first off, the team that I would want to take over automatically is the Chargers because you would have Justin Herbert for the next decade. Uh, and I like my chances with that guy at quarterback. I know people hate him, whatever. Um, but the one that I want to see happen is I want to see the Cowboys lose a playoff game, and I want to see Dan Quinn take over as the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that him in charge as the head coach and the staff that he would interject into that team. You re-sign Dak. You're probably not going to be able to re-sign CD Lamb because you're going to have to pay uh, Micah as well. So, but I think interjecting him as the head coach of that football team, I think that makes him a scary, scary franchise and a scary team.
Yeah, I think that Cowboys team would have more talent than that Falcons team did, and he led them to a Super Bowl. Um, I, as much as I hate the Cowboys, it's hard to criticize the job that Dan Quinn has done since taking over the defensive coordinator role over there. I mean, the Cowboys defense has been very scary since then, and I think that a guy like that deserves another shot at being a head coach. And I mean, worst case scenario, he ends up being a DC again and turning another defense into something as elite as the Cowboys have been. So I for the sake of my Eagles, I would rather not have that happen because I think Dan Quinn could be a great fit there. And as long as they have Mike McCarthy as head coach, um, and continue to hire morons, they'll not win a Super Bowl. So I'm fine with that.
That's fair.
But Dan Quinn would actually kind of scare me as a head coach because he's pretty competent.
Yeah. I know at the end of last offseason, I know for a fact that Dan Quinn actually turned down the Cardinals head coaching job. I guess it just wasn't the right fit for him. Um, it's
He needed to
rumored
get back to his roots.
it's rumored that he wants to coach Herbert in LA. So that could possibly be it, but I know for a fact that he turned down the Cardinals job and he was interviewing for the Denver job at the end of last season.
Hmm.
So
That's kind of interesting. Maybe, I mean, to be fair, there seemed to be a lot of questions around the Cardinals coming into this season. And maybe he saw that the Denver defense was good last year and was like, I want to make them better. But or he just maybe liked Russ. I don't know. Is the Denver job like that enticing?
yeah, I mean, if you think about it from like a security perspective, you have the richest family in America owning a football team. They're offering a very lucrative big contract, one of the biggest in sports, to take over the helm and like make you secure. Like, hey, here's a 7-year deal for millions and millions of dollars, and you know that they're not afraid to pull out that pocketbook and spend that money. So I I know that that's been an issue with the Cardinals, like in the past, where their owner isn't very rich, like where like liquid wise, like same with the Bengals, like there's owners that aren't really in a position to shell out like a ton of money for contracts, which is fucking insane to think about. But like that's why like I think that is why the Denver job like actually like had some like valid points to be like, yeah, that's a top job in the league.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess it's probably a combination of money plus how you actually feel about that team moving forward and what you think you can do with the guys in that locker room. So that's fair.
Well, think about like one of the worst situations to be in the league. Like, bro, the Panthers are going to have a really, really hard time finding somebody to take over as the head coach because they're going to look back in the last 10 years and be like, you guys fire everybody and you don't give anybody a chance to do anything. And the owner is like so heavily involved. Like, I heard Ben Solak be like this whole team, this whole like staff wanted CJ Stroud. Like, I know for a fact that when they traded for that pick in the middle of the summer, that like they were taking Bryce Young. There was never a doubt that they were taking Bryce Young. It's so easy now to look back and be like, oh, well, we wanted Stroud. Like, this is what we wanted to do, like, because he's balling. But like the reality is like they wanted Bryce Young. Like there was a text that was like, "Congrats on CJ Stroud," and they're like with a winky face response. Like they knew what they wanted. Like it was just now like they have to backtrack a little bit because it didn't go the way that they thought they were gonna go, but it's just like a bad situation. So you can like look at like each owner in the league, and if you're going to be a head coach, you want to be somewhere for a really long time. Like Bill Belichick's gonna get taken care of for a long time. From the looks of it, if Sirianni keeps it up, it looks like he's gonna be a head coach in the NFL for the Eagles for a really long time. So it's just about getting taken care of and knowing that the ownership at least is going to have your back and like not be like stingy and like on your ass.
Yeah, it's also not really like Carolina's like a destination place for players. And if it is going to be, they have to be willing to spend the money to bring in those types of guys. Like that roster from head to toe is just not good. So, I mean, God bless whoever goes in there and takes over the head coaching job. Um, the expectations as an owner if of the Lions, I mean, sorry, not the Lions, of the Panthers, you are like you're gonna have to be okay with winning like 4 or 5 games next year.
If that.
If that, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you come out of that season with 5 wins and you're like, all right, like we shouldn't have had a win at all last year, but we pulled it off. I'll take 5. Like that's heading in the right direction. And if you start to put some good young pieces together, obviously this is so much easier said than done, but you can't have the expectation that you're going to go out there and win 8, 9, 10 games right
Well,
away.
bro, like a really great example is Brian Burns is up. up for contract this year. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to require top dollar in the NFL. There's going to be some teams that pay him. The the Panthers for the last 2 years have been like dangling him at the trade deadline, being like, "Hey, like, are we gonna be able to like get this done?" Like, blah blah blah. It's like it was reported that the Rams were gonna give up 2 first round picks to get him, but like they wanted to be in win now mode and they won 1 game. So like it's just an all-time like blunder from like the ownership and front office where it's like you guys kind of have to actually evaluate like where you guys are at as a football team, and like you are going to have to strip down the defense to build up the offense and then build everything else around that. Like you took a quarterback, you have to build around that quarterback. Like that is the point of contention right now.
I saw a tweet. I think I screenshotted it. Give me a second here. Okay. So Jack Kennedy tweeted this out. I'm not entirely sure who this guy is, but he tweeted out, "I've said it before, but the Panthers have to be the most mismanaged team in the NFL for the last 5 or so years, especially with how they've dealt with the QB position." So they spent a third round pick on Will Greer. They signed Teddy Bridgewater for $33 million guaranteed. They cut Cam Newton. They traded a second, fourth, and a sixth for Sam Darnold. They traded Teddy Bridgewater for a sixth. They picked up Sam Darnold's $18.85 million option. They signed Cam Newton. They spent a third round pick on Matt Corral. They traded for Baker Mayfield. They cut Baker Mayfield. They cut Cam. They drafted Young over Stroud, and then they fired Frank Reich after 11 games.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's nightmare fuel.
Yeah, they suck. Like that's just like that isn't like, and then you kind of like have to like look at it then from like the outside looking in. You just hear that. It's so easy to sit there and be like, "Well, Bryce Young's not good." Well, it's like, well, for the last 8 years, there hasn't been any sort of successful structure in Carolina to be able to put them in any way, shape, or form in a position to build up a roster or a player at that. And look at where they're at. Now they're going to legit do the same thing. And now you look at what they traded. It's like, okay, well, last year we traded this pick, but we could have had Stroud or Jalen Carter. Now it's like, oh, well, like now this year we could have had Caleb Williams. So fuck, dude, you miss out on CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams. Somebody's going to get fired after next year. I can promise you that.
Yeah, and as I look at this tweet more, it just gets uglier and uglier because even at like looking back on it, it's obviously really bad, but even at the time, like I don't even think anybody really looked at these moves and was like, "Oh yeah, that's a good move." Like at no point was Sam Darnold like a hot commodity in the NFL. Same thing with Teddy Bridgewater. Like Teddy Bridgewater had like one good year and realistically has should be a should have been a backup quarterback his entire NFL career. Matt Corral,
He's not
nobody
even in the NFL.
he's not even in the league anymore. Who else? Will Greer in the third round. That's certainly a reach. Like that guy probably should have been like a fifth or a sixth round pick, maybe probably even undrafted in all honesty. I remember him. He was at West Virginia, I think.
He was at West Virginia and then he was like having like a stupid year and then he popped for PEDs and then he went to Miami and like kind of fizzled out, but he still got drafted.
And I mean, the biggest thing there is signing and cutting Cam Newton 3 different times. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, come on.
it's insane, dude.
So yeah, they're reaching like, you know how there was those Browns jerseys where people just have like tape on different
Yeah,
Browns names. Yeah, that's what they're getting to.
it's looking that way. It sucks. I mean, it's just like we talked at the top of the pod. Like, if you're not in a great situation, this happens, and until you fix like the root of the problem, which is it starts at the top, then you're going to be able to figure it out. All of the greatest teams in the NFL who have sustained success have really great ownership. I mean, it's like there's really not much more to it than that. And if you don't have great ownership, your teams over time, you might have a few years where you pop, but the sustained success over 20 years like actually starts to show.
Yeah, and obviously it's easy for us to sit here and just like critique ownership. It's difficult, but what has this guy and this GM done to I'm not ready to quit on Bryce Young yet because he's in just a miserable spot, but even off after all those moves that we just listed for quarterbacks, they haven't even been close.
Yeah.
Like at what point, like where do you draw the line and say, hey, it's time to hang it up and let somebody else do this that might have a better feel for what's happening? Because it feels like they struggle to
They did.
evaluate talent.
They did though 3 different times. This is a new GM in the front office.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm all for giving people time, but I don't know, it's getting ugly.
Yeah, and like
Fans are it's easier for me to say because I'm not a fan of this team, but if this was my team, I would wear a paper bag over my head.
completely fair. Well, we just touched on the Bears and the Panthers future, so tap in. But if we can real quick, if we can do a little week 12 feast week recap. First off, my elimination pool was Steelers Bucks. Bucks had a bad loss. Steelers won. Hate the Steelers. My 2 for this week are going to be the Broncos and the Patriots. Even though the Patriots are actively tanking.
Yeah, I have that in my notes. Patriots actively tanking. I had the Pats and the Browns, and they both lost. So
Nice.
it's just how I drew it up. But my 2 teams for this week. Let me pull up my notes. I had the Rams and the Chiefs.
Nice. Okay, Rams and Chiefs. First game that happened on Feast Week was a game that you said the Lions were going to roll. I said it was too many points. I took Packers +8 and the over in this spot. Actually, smashed it. Packers won outright. Jordan Love, I will say this, he's good, man. Like the last few weeks, he's really starting to like settle in a little bit more and finding comfort within the offense. Their young talent on offense and their young wide receivers are really starting to come into their own and ball. Christian Watson looks a little bit more healthy. Jordan Reed is an absolute playmaker. I think Jordan Love made one of the most impressive throws of the entire day. He absolutely threaded the needle between 3 defenders for a touchdown. Said it 2 weeks ago when we said we were wrong about the Packers. I said not so fast. They're going to be a playoff team. Go out and beat the Lions, trending upwards for them. They're not even fully healthy. Their defense is complete shambles. Their offense have injuries on it, and Bakhtari, which he doesn't matter, and Aaron Jones, and they went out and beat the Lions and playoffs inbound for the Packers.
Yeah. So I sent you this tweet the other day. This was after the pod, so I would imagine it was Wednesday. The Lions cannot beat the moon. It was
Yeah.
another Lions moon game.
Mm-hmm.
Since the AFL NFL merger, they are 0-12 on Thanksgiving when the moon is in waxing gibbous phase, and the moon was waxing all the gibbous.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving. So we should have known that.
That didn't get covered enough.
It certainly did not. It should have been all over national media. But that's what we're here for. We said how it felt like every how every favorite was going to win, and it just didn't. It felt too good to be true. The Lions, I live bet them. I had them in a parlay, and they just suck on defense.
Yeah, they're bad. They're bad on defense. It makes you like, it's just so obvious that when it gets to the point when they have to play a playoff game, like I couldn't imagine like the Cowboys against this defense or the Eagles against this defense. They're just going to really struggle. I mean, it's just kind of the reality of the situation. So,
and on top of that, Jared Goff isn't playing great right now. So that's not a great combination.
I got absolutely crucified during the offseason and after week 4 of the season by you were involved and Tyler Karpinski was also involved. Shout out Carp. He listens. Love
Shout out
that.
Carp.
After like week 4, he was like, remember when you said Jared Goff wasn't good and he's playing at an MVP level? And I said, well, we shouldn't even play the rest of the season. Let's just stop playing in the rest of the season and just give him everything now. Jared Goff, we know what Jared Goff is. He is a great middle of above average quarterback in the NFL. And
He's a good quarterback.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when your defense is really bad and you have to kind of rely on Goff to be that guy from time to time, I don't really see the long-term sustained success in the Lions to win a big game, like win a playoff game, maybe go on a run and contend for a Super Bowl. That's why I said during the draft process, if they liked any of these young quarterbacks, they had 2 first-round picks. Okay. Jahmyr Gibbs looks good, whatever. People like him. Me personally, David Montgomery is great, and you probably could have got a free agent in there to do exactly what Jahmyr Gibbs does. With that being said, then you take Jack Campbell, who has been absolutely
We lost him. Jack Campbell, a off-ball linebacker. You cut out. You cut out right after you said Jack Campbell.
Jack Campbell's been struggling, and that's fine. So what I'm trying to really get at here, and I'll bring it.
They also got a bull from Bama, Branch, and he's been good.
Yeah, he's good. They got him in the second round, third round.
I think it was early second.
Yeah. Regardless, you look back at their draft and what they took. They were in the 6th position, I believe, in this year. They traded back to 12, and they took Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's a miss. You look at what they're doing and how they run this offense. I don't think that I know that like people like Jahmyr Gibbs because of fantasy. I don't think that he does like everything that it's hyped up to be so much to warrant a top 15 pick. And then you go and take Jack Campbell, like you said, an off-ball linebacker. He's struggling when you did this. I think that we're going to look back at that draft and it's going to be and it's hard to do this because the Lions are like everyone's like your favorite team that's not your favorite team. People love the coach, they love some of the players. Amon-Ra St. Brown's amazing. David Montgomery's a dog. Their offensive line. Yeah, Sam Laporta, their offensive line is one of the best in the entire league, but you look back and you kind of have to critique if you felt like Jared Goff was your guy, you should have stayed put and you should have taken Jalen Carter at 6. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's the best player in the draft other than Stroud, probably. So boom, right there, I think you miss. And then their second pick, I don't know who was available. I'd have to look at that time, but clearly taking Jack Campbell at that pick wasn't the correct move either. And I think that it was a very big miss by their front office in the offseason for this rebuild.
Yeah, so it's easy to look back on the Jalen Carter thing because of how well he's playing, but there was serious, obviously, concerns about him and I do think the Lions, with the culture that Dan Campbell has built, I think he would have still been good. I think Dan Campbell's built a very good culture over there and is a good head coach that guys respect. But there was serious concerns around Jalen Carter, and I understand why teams passed on him. I mean, I can't vouch for them taking Jahmyr Gibbs, although I think he's a really good player. especially if after they already brought in Montgomery, they should have gone with another defensive player. And I'm trying to pull up the um, draft results here. So they took Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. Um, Now they could have taken Christian Gonzalez, who went to the Pats at 17, and then they took Jack Campbell at 18. Now I'm looking through the Deontay Banks from the Giants has played decent, if I recall. Um, some of these other names are just not really jumping off the page at me.
At the end of the day, they needed to evaluate what was most important for them, and what's their weakest point on this team currently. It's their secondary. So that's
They did sign CJ Gardner Johnson, who did get hurt. And he's a good
I think
safety.
he's okay. I don't think that he's a game-changing safety to, like, round out a secondary and be like, "All right, we got our guy, we're good." Like, I don't believe that he's that player at all. Um, like, I know he played well for the Eagles last year, but he's just not that guy. Um, the looking at what was available on the board is completely fine, but it's also situational. Like, do you believe in the Lions DC to be able to coach up some of these young secondary guys to play differently than these other people? Potentially. I think probably what they did a disservice in themselves is in not taking the positions, and they got criticized for it at the time. And when they got off to an extremely hot start, everybody and Jahmyr Gibbs had 167 all-purpose yards. Everybody's like, "Oh, they're great. Like, fuck it. Like, they were right." Like, all this shit. But now you look at it and they lose a game to a Packers team where you got to beat the Packers. They're on a
Yeah.
downswing. They haven't had a great year. You're at home on Thanksgiving. You haven't won a Thanksgiving game in a long time. You have to win that football game.
Yeah.
Instead, you get absolutely exposed. And now I think it's really fair to start questioning their decisions that they made that people kind of validated 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they're going to be in a tough spot too because they'll still probably end up winning like 3 more games probably. So that puts them at 13-4. And
Well, listen, maybe.
yeah, maybe.
And that's
I
with
mean,
all due
I'm
respect.
looking at their schedule. They've got the Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. I think they probably beat the Saints and the Bears and split with the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears almost went out and beat them, like, at home. So, like, do you think the Bears can sneak one? Like, maybe. Like, do they split the series? That's kind of these games really do matter for them. They need to round out their season. They need to show that they're able to stop something on the defensive side of the ball and have a snowball's chance in hell. Like I said, I just think it's going to be either you look back at that draft and you're like, "Damn, there's some really, really great defensive players." Like, could you have taken Christian Gonzalez? Could you have taken Devin Witherspoon at 6? Like, there's just so many great players that have been playing so well that are literally, like, in their list of needs as of right now, and maybe ultimately, depending on how Jared Goff looks in this playoff run. I know that he's up for free agency after this year. Was should we have taken a quarterback and just waited a year? I think they kind of sped run the rebuild, and they didn't really need to.
Yeah. Also, they could have taken um, Joey Porter Jr. at 32.
He's been great.
And he's been going crazy.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they got in the Hawkinson trade, but that could have led to them getting Sam Laporta. And I mean, I'm not mad at them for that.
Yeah, and listen, the Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, those guys are
Yeah.
really great players, and I'm not critiquing them for that. But you had 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
2. So you either had an opportunity that, like, this was the only draft in the next X amount of years that you're going to have 2 first round picks. You have to take advantage of that, whether that's moving up the board to get 2 great defensive players or to, like, lock in a quarterback for your future. I think they fumbled it. I know that. But like we said, we'll see in the playoffs. Like maybe they go on a run and win a Super Bowl, and I'll shut up.
They could get really gritty. But I would like to point out that I'm glad that the Packers are playing better because I have a bet on Christian Watson over touchdowns. So it's good that Jordan Love is starting to pick it up a little bit. Um, I also want to say that it's tough sometimes because we do this week to week, and this season is so long that you could start off as shit as the Packers really did, and you could be sitting at like 2-4 and feel not great. But then you have 11 games left to turn it around, and there's just so much time to figure it out during the season. And it's not something that we necessarily forget because we can only go off of what we have seen thus far, but it's impressive to see some of these guys kind of turn it around and put it together a little bit. Like who would have thought slandered the Broncos for however many weeks and they've ripped off 4 in a
Yeah,
row.
yeah,
And
and
they are on the verge of making the playoffs.
they're
So,
firmly in the playoff picture.
yeah, it's a long year and you can easily get discouraged after starting off slow, but if you have the right coach and the right guys in your building, you can turn it around and especially now because how many teams make the playoffs? Like
7.
what, 7 in each side? Like
Yeah.
you could turn it around. It's a long year, man.
It's a long year, but I think that the critiques that were given by us, like at each juncture of the season, was extremely warranted. And then once we
Right.
realized that they were able to turn it around, then it's like, okay, like, hey, they had a tough start, but they were able to turn around. I think we have another case here with the Packers, but I'm going to try to move on here a little bit.
Yep.
Cowboys roll, obviously, good for them. Seahawks might be dead. They just
You need to make an official statement
they're in
about
a
the
bad.
Seahawks.
I mean, they're just in a bad spot. I mean, you're starting Jason Peters. Their O line still isn't healthy. They Kenneth Walker's hurt. Um, they had to bench Reek Woolen because he has a tackling issue. Not a great look. Um, listen, man, they're in a bad spot right now. Gino's elbow's banged up. He's trying to tough it out and play through it. Like they are just not a healthy football team. I mean, that's kind of in my opinion, like that is my analysis of the situation. Like if you have a fully healthy football team, that's great. One person that I am going to call out, and I said this at the beginning of the season to multiple people, DK Metcalf is not a good wide receiver at all. He is not good. Like I've never seen somebody who is too cool to play football. You're the biggest, fastest, strongest guy, and you are a non-threat when you're out on the football field. And it is mind-boggling to me because every single week you sit there and you're like, okay, can DK Metcalf make a game-changing play in this game? And he just doesn't do it. I do not see anything out of him where it impresses me in any way, shape, or form. I think he's had some good seasons in the past, but he is not a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL. He's just not.
Yeah, I honestly don't really have an argument for that. He has not impressed me thus far. Um, I he has been good in the past, but this year has been, he's just been not he's been a shell of himself. He hasn't been the DK Metcalf that we've seen in years past. Um, but yeah, you're right. The Seahawks are in a tough spot. They're banged up, and they are in the toughest stretch of their schedule. Niners, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles. I mean,
They're
that's
fucked.
I,
They're
it's not
fucked.
great.
And they're so bro, every week somebody else gets hurt. Kenny
Yeah.
Walker goes down with an oblique. Jason Peters, their fucking third string left tackle, goes down with a groin injury. It's just like,
Jason Peters was phenomenal for the Eagles when he was younger, but he probably should have retired from football about 9 years ago.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, there was a period where every crucial third down in an Eagles game, that guy would false start, and it was like clockwork.
Yeah.
It you it was unbelievable to watch. I would stand there and watch it be 3rd and 4, third quarter. Eagles are like right on the verge of getting a first down. I mean, right on the verge of being in field goal position. False start, 3rd and 9. They have to punt. It was insane.
And real quick, and then we'll move on. I think it's also extremely fair to be very critical of what the Seahawks did in the draft as well. They had a position where they had 2 first round picks. They should have traded up and got a quarterback as well. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They took Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's been hurt. He was hurt at the beginning of the year. He's starting to kind of form into his own. Devin Witherspoon's been a dog, but like I said, I criticize the Lions. I'm going to criticize the Seahawks too. Probably should have made a move at quarterback. Next, the Jets suck. That's fine. Bad loss for the Bucks.
I wanted to say one thing about that Jets Dolphins game. We saw Jalen Phillips tear his Achilles on national TV. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And everybody blamed the turf, and this was just a normal play of him pushing off and rushing the passer. It wasn't like a freak injury or anything crazy. I don't know. We talked about turf before, and this can be short because it's really not that significant, but could it be anything to do with the fact that we're seeing twice as many games on that turf as to why there's this many issues?
Yeah, there's 2 teams that play home games on that turf. So you see what, 20 games a season there or whatever. Okay, yeah, people get hurt every single week in the NFL. Every single, and it's never going to change. What's changed is that it seems like the Achilles is like damn near the new ACL. I don't know what it is, but I remember when everybody started tearing their ACL, it was like, why is everybody tearing their ACL? What's happening? But now it's like everyone's tearing their Achilles. I don't have the answer for it. It's just it's weird. I think it's a weird trend. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I think we just haven't figured out ways to we figured out ways to strengthen everything around ACLs and medicine around it. So I think we're seeing less injuries ACL related. I just don't know if we've reached that point with Achilles yet. But also, these guys are freak shows.
Yes.
They're so strong, they're so fast, and to rely on a small Achilles to deal with all the force that these guys are bringing every play, that's a lot. So
yeah, they're big.
I
they're
feel
fast.
you.
They're strong.
I'd snap too if I was an Achilles.
They're big, fast, strong. They are starting and stopping on every single play. It's a physical football game. People are going to get hurt next week and every single week after the football season. We wish it didn't happen. Unfortunately, that's not the real world.
Yeah.
Bad loss for the Bucks. We kind of touched on that already. Pats are tanking. You said that already. The Steelers are still bad. They gained 400 yards. Good for them. Whatever. They're still a bad football team. They're a non-threat. I heard somebody be like, that's a team that I don't want to see in the playoffs. If I'm a team, that's exactly who I want to go see in the playoffs. That team does not scare me in any way, shape, or form, because when you play a team like that in the playoffs, things get exposed. You're going to be able to take care of business. That is not a team that I'm scared of in the playoffs.
It would have been all time if they finally put up 400 yards and then lost
to Jake Browning.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost did. Listen, they put up 400
they
yards and they scored 16 points. Not impressed with their performance. That Deontay Johnson fumble where he was just standing there was a ridiculous visual and really goes to show you the state of the team. I just don't think that they're on the same page, but that's just me.
Shout out Pat Freiermuth though. He had a good game finally.
For sure. Panthers are in turmoil. We touched a lot on that. I was shocked. Real quick, and I'll make this quick. Jags versus Texans. I saw on X is that Trevor Lawrence is not that guy, and that CJ Stroud was better than him. 23 for 28, 364 yards, a touchdown, one interception, one rushing touchdown, leads the weekend and the week on passing yards. 8-3 on the season, driver's seat to have the first seed in the AFC. T-Law led a 27-3 comeback in the playoffs last year. Respectfully, not many people are fucking with Trevor Lawrence. He is that guy. He's that good. As we see, there's ebbs and flows throughout the season that make differences. I think it took a little bit for the offense to get figured out in Jacksonville. Guess what? Trevor Lawrence is a really good fucking football player, and he's going to be for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, it's okay to say that CJ Stroud is having a good year, which he obviously is, but I mean, it's foolish to say that in the grand scheme of things, he's better than Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the guy's played 12 NFL games. And I feel like the Jags are like a sneaky 9-3, 8-3.
8-3.
They're it's so sneaky 8-3. Which is scary. Like, it's kind of scary. They've been playing good football. Trevor Lawrence stepped up. The Texans had a shot, and there was some calls that didn't go their way. But that's showbiz.
And to round out the Jacksonville conversation, this is a top 10 defense by DVOA. Everybody shit on this defense to start the year. Everybody shit on Trevon Walker. They have legitimate guys in that secondary. Josh Allen is a legitimate edge rusher. Trayvon Walker has stepped up this year. And one last thing, shout out to my guy Seakirk, who people said that he was overpaid. Since they signed him, 30 played games. The guy's made of absolute fucking iron. 155 receptions, 2,500 or 2,001 yards, 13 touchdowns, 101.6 passer rating when target, and 13.1 yards per reception. That guy's an absolute fucking animal. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a legitimate organization that have made really great moves. They got the coaching correct. They got the team correct. They have their quarterback. They have serious weapons. I love this Jacksonville football team.
And Calvin Ridley has been playing better as of recent, and that's like the last thing that defending or opposing defenses need.
Exactly.
Like, they've got guys all over the field, and if you got Calvin Ridley playing well, good luck.
We can keep moving. Saints suck.
You've heard a lot of Jag slander because you were kind of going off.
Bro, I'm just like, I'm on X, and like everybody's like, everybody thinks CJ Stroud, T-Law can really fuck with CJ Stroud. Like, I'm just, dude, like, respectfully, like, if you're 8-3 in the division and you're like tied for the first seed and have a real chance at a bye, like, shut the fuck up. Like, that, what else do you want from a football team? Same shit that you hear about the Eagles when they go and win a football game and they're 10-1 and people are like, well, they're fraudulent. It's like, they're fucking 10-1, dude. Like, and they're the first seed in the NFC. Like, they're not like doing anything wrong. Like, if you have a really good football team, your defense is going to find ways to win games sometimes, and your offense is going to find ways to win games sometimes. Neither of those teams are one-sided in any way, shape, or form. Sometimes the defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars plays absolutely lights out. Same with the Eagles. Sometimes the offense does, and same with the Eagles. Like, that just is a makeup for a really good football team. You want to talk about being fraudulent, talk about the Chiefs. The Chiefs can't score. It took them to play one of the worst teams in the NFL to be able to score a point in the fourth quarter. Like, good for them. Their defense has been absolutely carrying them all year. So I don't want to hear about fraudulent from these teams who are actually a complete football team. Talk about the teams that fucking suck. All I hear about every single week are the people, the casuals in the fucking community who sit around and just are like, oh, like, yeah, the Bills are going to win. The Chiefs are going to win. Like, yeah, dude, real fucking original. Like,
yeah. Building off of that, it's getting to the point where, like, if that's all that you're going to say, then nobody's good in the NFL. Like, there has to be somebody that's good in the NFL. Like, that's just how it is. And if, as much as you don't want to admit it because you might not like the team, they're good. The Jags are good. The Eagles are good. Like, that's that's what it is. Like, they're good teams, and it makes no sense. People just want to pick holes in everybody, and that's fine. But you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing this because I actually know what's happening, or am I doing this because I'm an idiot? And most of the time, it's I'm an idiot.
Facts.
Also, one other thing. You're not going to get every single game where the offense is clicking on every level and defense is clicking on every level. And if you're still able to win a football game that way, you're a good team.
Yeah. And I just, bro, every T-Law throws one pick and everybody is up in arms. They're like, well, he's not the prince that was promised, blah, blah, blah. But then, like,
bro, every quarterback is throwing interceptions, especially
Mahomes,
this year. Defenses are playing
Allen,
better.
like, they all do. Everybody throws picks. I'm just so tired of hearing it. Like, when, like, a team who's, like, actually good. And, like I said, like, whatever. I might be a little biased on the Jags. Fucking, like, whatever. But those are my guys, and I want to see them do well, and they're fucking balling this year, so I'm going to give them some credit. Saints suck. Not much to say there. Rams offense looked really good against the Cardinals.
Yeah, it did. Kyren Williams?
Kyren.
Kyren?
Yeah, he looked great. Broncos are rolling. I think they are probably the hottest team in football right now. The Chiefs are weak. They just are. Ravens win, and I know that, like, there's some takeaways that you can have from that game. It shouldn't have been close. Whatever, they didn't execute. Warren Sharp kind of gave a very interesting point, where he's like, you fade East Coast teams going to the West Coast in prime time because during the second half, their internal clock, it's midnight. It's time to go to bed.
1 o'clock, yeah.
And it's usually like, hey, like, this team's usually going to lose in this spot. So that was a letdown spot for the Ravens. They went out, handled business. Zay Flowers absolutely balled. That's our guy.
Yeah, Ravens are also really fucking good. So everybody on X, poke holes in them, and you're probably wrong.
Bears win without a tutty. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I didn't watch. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't watch that game, much of it. I fell asleep.
Justin Fields had somehow they pulled that off, but my dude's ball security is
awful.
Not great. Not great, especially if you're gonna run as much as he runs. You got to hold on to the rock.
I completely agree with you. All right. Well, let's get into this game. You're gonna have to preview this first game because I have to piss because I drank enough water to kill a small family.
All right. First game we got Thursday.
Wait, hold on. I'm about to pull it up, pal.
All right, buddy. Sorry.
Don't fucking call me buddy. Fucking asshole. All right, I'll be right back.
All right, first game Thursday night. I would say this is probably one of the better primetime or better Thursday night games we've got. Seahawks at Cowboys. Cowboys -9. I mean, the Cowboys have yet to beat a good team. I think the Seahawks are a good team, although they are banged up. I think the Cowboys have a tough stretch here, just as well as the Seahawks, Eagles, and the Niners, I believe. They're all kind of playing one another, or already have. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I think the Cowboys actually have something to prove, and I think they do come out here and sort of rough up the Seahawks. I like, I don't know how I feel about this number, because I just went out here and said that the Seahawks are a good team, but the Cowboys just beat up on bad teams, and I feel like this season the Seahawks are good, but right now they're bad, and I think for that reason I would take the Cowboys.
I will not bet on the Seahawks team at all for the rest of the year. They are on the do not bet list.
Oh, I'm not taking this either, but if I had to, I'd probably take the Cowboys.
This is the Cowboys in a smash spot. I don't care.
All right, what do we got next?
Chargers Patriots.
This was your game.
Yes.
So I mean, Bill Belichick owns the Chargers.
Listen, this
But
isn't the same team, and I understand that. I just really don't understand why Staley hasn't been fired, and I think it's that bad. I even think that like Austin Eckler even looks bad. Like there's just
I mean, Jordan Davis ran faster than him this weekend.
yeah, it's just
And Jordan Davis weighs 385 pounds.
I'm just not impressed with the Chargers skill group currently. So
It's almost, though, I will say, it is a lock pretty much for Keenan Allen to have like 7 catches and like 90 yards every week.
I have him in fantasy. I'm not upset about it. So I'm
I
right with you.
I will not take the Patriots the rest of the year. They're actively tanking, as we said, and I took them last week as my survivor team. So I will be taking the Chargers.
Nice. Okay, next game. Cardinals Steelers at Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that it's weird. It's a 5.5 spread, and the money line is not even plus 200. We're not really getting much value in these money lines anymore. So, like, if you were to think that the Cardinals were gonna win, you should probably like take them to. Where's it at? Wait,
What are you looking for?
+1. You can't even minus. You can't even take them to win. Oh,
Yeah.
if you think that they're gonna win, just take a -1.5 and get 220 rather than +198. And they're gonna win by more than 2 points if you like them, obviously.
Yeah, that's kind of what that would be my words of advice too. I mean, you could also just tease this up to like 7.5. You could buy 2 points, and I still like that. I mean, I don't see a scenario where the Steelers end up beating anybody by more than a touchdown.
Yeah, honestly, no bullshit. Like I kind of like the Cardinals honestly this week against them. I just think that I think the fast-paced offense that the Cardinals run like kind of combats the way that the Steelers run, and like the Cardinals are in a position where they like don't have like a true number one wide receiver, so it's not like Joey Porter is going to be like on anybody. Like they really spread the wealth. They use Trey McBride a ton, so yeah, I kind of like the Cardinals to win, but I guess we'll see.
I also think Kyler Murray's running ability is going to help out a little bit in this scenario because of the Steelers' pretty good pass rush. Might be worth looking at pass rush.
Rush.
It might be worth looking at his running yards.
Next, Denver Broncos at Houston.
First.
This is an absolute no-brainer move for me. The Broncos money line is exactly what I'm taking. They're the hottest team in football. I mean, like the reason that they are is they just play such an unconventional style that like nobody's ready for, and like they play so slow and like
so slow
and so clunky that like it like fucks the team up that they're playing against. And I think that their like styles make fights. I always say that like the Broncos style versus the Texans style, I think is genuinely going to like send a shell shock through like CJ Stroud's body and like the defense's body. It's a really weird matchup for them.
It's very weird. These teams play completely opposite. Houston likes to move up and down the field. Denver wants to take it 1 yard at a time.
Literally.
I mean, you could get to a spot where I thought that the Browns were going to win last week, but the Broncos just came out and ran it down their dicks. I mean, it truly wouldn't surprise me if we ended up seeing that again. I mean, the Broncos came out and were winning 14-0 early, and then just manned up on them the rest of the game.
Don't let the Broncos get hot. Like this is a heat check game for them.
This is the definition of a heat check game. This is J.R. Smith pulling up from half court.
Yeah.
I like the Broncos here too. I think this is they're the hottest team in ball right now.
They are. And people are still sleeping on them. Like, bro, like that's the craziest part. Like, I remember 2 weeks ago, I smashed a plus 370 money line on the Broncos to win at Buffalo. Like, this team is legit, bro. Like, they win big games, like, against good quarterbacks. Like, I know that that's a crazy thing to say, but, like, at this point of the season, like, it's just true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like the
So,
Broncos too.
next game, Detroit versus the Saints. Man, if the Lions don't get this done, there is going to be some serious points of contention around the Lions.
Yeah, if they don't win this game, they're gonna have to schedule a players only meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I
What I do think,
I think
I
they
think go ahead.
I was gonna say I think the Lions come out here and win.
I think the Lions smash,
They
bro.
have to. Yeah,
Because
I'm not
not
gonna say
because
that because last time I said that they lost
the reason I'm
ugly,
saying that is because the Saints are one, they have Derek Carr, he sucks. They have
but he's a
no
man of God.
they have no wide receivers. MT's on IR, Rashid
Yeah.
Shaheed's hurt, Chris
Olave
Olave
has
is
a concussion.
gonna be in protocol. I just think this is a recipe for disaster for them. I think this is one of those weeks where people aren't gonna pay attention to the injury report, and they're gonna be shocked when the Lions come out and win.
This is the
By big.
Taysom Hill game though. So take I did actually place a bet over the weekend Taysom Hill to have one catch or have one receiving yard, one passing yard, and one rushing yard. It didn't hit because he didn't throw any passes,
My
but
dad took that.
I
My
threw a
dad
couple of bucks
swear
on it. I was like, this is worth it. This will be sick.
my dad took that exact he like I like walked out in the living room and I was like, "What's good?" And he was like, "Man, like, what do you think? Like Taysom Hill one rat." I was like, "Of course." That's funny that you said that.
Yeah, I was on that. It
he
didn't
was out in
hit.
he was out in the living room watching the games for Thanksgiving, all fired up. So and
I would
all
have
weekend.
Yeah, that's right. I would have loved that game. I would have loved for that to hit, but it was a fun bet to place and root for. Um, with that being said, if there are no receivers in this game, I'm taking Taysom Hill's running and receiving yards.
I respect that. Next game, Colts Titans. I don't really have much invested in this game or care about this game. I know that the Colts are um on the brink, not even on the brink, they're kind of firmly in the playoff picture as of now. I think that Steichen is a really great coach, and I know Vrabel's a really great coach as well, but I just kind of like this Colts team a little bit more, even with the news of Jonathan Taylor being out for 2 weeks with a thumb injury. Zach Moss, I think, is more than capable of handling the workload. So I like the Colts in this spot.
Yeah, I think the Titans at this point are just like trying to play spoiler. And I think the Colts kind of smell a little bit of blood in the water as far as the Titans go. And they're like, hey, we have a good chance out here to really take another step with this team. And I mean, how many times has Gardner Minshew been favorited in an NFL game?
Yeah.
Probably not many. Zach Moss is just fine filling in for Jonathan Taylor. So I like the Colts here too.
Next game, Falcons Jets. I think that this is a very, very rare opportunity where you get to bet on against Tim Boyle, and I don't care
This
who
is a
else
suck fest.
is rolling out there. The Falcons are the number 1 seed in the NFC South. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to beat the Jets. You get to bet against Tim Boyle. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. Falcons -3.
Dolphins versus Commies. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really like betting on the Dolphins, honestly.
It feels like every time the Commanders are like +9.5 against somebody, they tend to keep it close.
Except against the Cowboys last week on Thanksgiving.
Except against the Cowboys. Fuck. I forgot it was that high. But I don't know. I feel like the Dolphins and the Cowboys are actually kind of similar in terms of they beat up on bad teams.
So
But
you like the points?
9.5 still feels like a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't have a feel for this game, so Bucks Panthers. If you believe in Thomas
Magic.
Brown calling plays and a new interim head coach, take the Panthers, but I think the Bucs should probably win this game. If they don't, they're probably in trouble.
The new coach effect? Question mark.
I don't think it matters, dude. I think the Panthers are dead, man.
They're big dead, but
They're
cats have
due,
9 lives.
but they're due.
The cats have 9 lives.
I don't know, man. I'm staying away from them, bro. They suck.
They're so bad.
They're
But
so bad.
if there was ever a time, it
It's
would
this
be
week,
against the Buccaneers because they're also bad.
and I'm taking their money line. No, I'm just kidding. No, I
No,
just
for the
yeah,
sake of the new coach effect, I'm taking +5.5.
nice. Next game, the biggest disrespect on the card as of right now
I
are the
love it.
Eagles being 2.5 point underdogs.
I love
10
the
and
disrespect.
10 and 1, by the way.
A lot of muscle.
At home versus the 49ers. This game is going to be a slugfest. With that being said,
It's supposed to rain.
it always rains in Philly now for some reason. With that being said, I would absolutely love to see the Eagles win this game. But the Eagles are so due for a letdown, bro. They just played 2 fucking ridiculous hard-nosed football games back to back. If Lane Johnson plays, I like their chances a little bit more. I'm almost
He's
kind
playing.
of so I guess we'll see. I mean,
Dallas Goedert, I think, is playing too.
oh wow, I thought he was going to be gone for a little bit longer. But yeah, I think the Eagles are due to drop a game, but I would like to see them win.
Yeah, this is the revenge game for last year. The 49ers have an opportunity to go out and back up all the shit talking that they did in the offseason after getting smoked and then crying about it like a bunch of little babies, the 40 whiners. Eagles money line, fuck the Niners. Brock Purdy is a middle school math teacher.
Yeah, I think the Niners defense has been really like growing and running into shape. The one thing I like about this is that Brock Purdy isn't really a mobile quarterback, and if you can, it's impossible to contain Christian McCaffrey, but the fact that they don't have the threat of the run, which killed them last week against the Bills, makes me like them a little bit more in this spot. But containing Kittle, Debo, CMC, Ayuk is a tall task against the defense who is been struggling, I'd say, against the pass. So we'll see. I know that if I think Fletcher Cox is out, Zach Cunningham's out.
Cunningham's out. I think Fletch is going to play.
They've just
I
been.
think they just need anybody to go in there and play linebacker. So
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, I just feel like the Eagles have just played so many back-to-back physical, emotional football games that this is a letdown spot for them. But like I said, I'll never count the Eagles out of any game. I think that they are more than capable of winning this, but 10-1, who cares if they go 10-2?
I think the biggest issue if I'm an Eagles defense is a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
We saw Mahomes and we saw Josh Allen in relatively big spots make plays with their legs. What felt like almost every third and medium.
It
It
was
felt
rough.
like those guys were able to just kind of get outside the pocket. I don't think you're going to have to worry about that with Brock Purdy. And I think that plays into the favor of the Eagles. Just something to think about.
I'm right there with you. I completely agree with that statement. Um Browns, Rams. This is a big playoff game. These guys both need this win pretty bad. I'd probably just lean the Rams just because of the quarterback situation. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think the team that I picked was the Rams. They looked good last week. It's good they finally got their guy back in the backfield and Kyron Williams. The Browns are just feel kind of defeated. Like, they have a bunch of guys hurt. I think Myles Garrett's going to be all right, but Amari Cooper got hurt. DTR got hurt. Like, PJ Walker sucks. Joe Flacco might have to play quarterback. And that guy's 38. I wanted to actually say something about that. It's unbelievable that we're at the point where there's nobody that they would rather. I guess it's a little different for the Browns because they still have something to play for. Like, they're still a playoff team, but it's wild that 38-year-old Joe Flacco is the guy that they turn to. Like, he's a proven guy in the NFL, and you know what you're going to get, I think. But it's just wild that there's nobody better that they could bring in.
I mean, bro, I think something that doesn't like get talked about enough is like everybody's ability to like be a pro. And I think that there is a lot of quarterbacks who are on the open market who have proven time and time again that they're not a good professional football player. And what I mean by that is like knowing your role. When you bring some of these guys in, like Joe Flacco understands his role and why he's there. And
But
I
I'm
think
talking about guys that haven't even been given a chance. And now, like I said, it's different for the Browns because they have something to play for. So, like, they need a guy that they know what they're getting in Joe Flacco. But, like, Tommy DeVito got a chance. Like, it's crazy that there's not a guy kind of
they
like that.
tried.
Like,
They tried to give it to DTR and he got fucking his head wrung.
right. Then that's fair. I'm just saying, like, it's wild that it's still Joe Flacco at 38.
I'm with you. Next game. Kansas City Chiefs at Green Bay. I think Green Bay's hot. I like Green Bay in this spot against the Chiefs. Like I said, I don't think the Chiefs are a good football team. I think Packers are trending up. I like the Packers money line in this spot.
I took the Chiefs in this one as my other team. I think that everybody is going to be on the Packers because of their win last week against the Lions.
No,
And the
you're wrong.
Lions win. The Lions defense is horrible, and
You're
the Chiefs
wrong.
actually have a good defense.
You're
I
wrong.
think a lot of people are going to be on the Packers.
I promise you on God's earth that every single person in the world is going to have the Chiefs teased down to 1.5 or whatever, because I'm letting you know that just because we think the Chiefs aren't that good, everybody in the world still thinks that the Chiefs and the Bills are the best teams in the NFL. I promise you. And listen, we'll see it as it here. I can actually I can pull up an early line and see how much money is on the Chiefs versus them. And if they are, I'll say if the Packers have more money, I'll say sorry on publicly.
Maybe I'm just putting too much faith in humanity.
As of right now, the Chiefs have 57% of the money and the Packers have 43. So listen,
Is
relatively
that just money line?
spread.
Okay. Fair.
Money line. Let's take a look here. Money line. The Chiefs have 96% of the bets,
Yeah.
and the Packers have 4% of the bets.
Yeah, that is fair.
So
I don't know. I
everybody
think
still
that'll
loves them, man. Bro,
not us.
everybody every single week who are casual betters have a ridiculous parlay with the Chiefs with Kelsey to score a touchdown and whoever the fuck else they want to throw in the parlay to score a touchdown every single week. I promise you, I see it all the time. Last game.
Fair enough.
Cincinnati Bengals versus the Jaguars. Unfortunate they couldn't flex this game out, but I think the Jags handle business.
Yeah, I think the Jags actually smoke the Bengals here. It just doesn't like this game last week.
2 weeks ago, this game was going to be special.
Yeah, it would have been an elite matchup.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence. That what else can you ask for? But I don't know. Jake Browning. The Jags are just hot. They're rolling. They're actually a good football team. The Bengals are just trending in the opposite direction, and it's because of injuries, obviously, but I don't know. I like this Jags team, and you got me all fired up about them, so I'm on them.
I love that team, man. I love them. Yeah, so that's the rest of the week. First off, I just wanted to say that my dad hit me up last night, gave me a call. He was like, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas and your birthday?" I was like, "Well, I really would like to go to the Travis Scott concert." He was like, "All right, perfect," because Noah just bought the tickets. So I wanted to ask, one, where we're sitting, and two, great surprise. Thank you to you and my pops to draft that up. I'm fired up.
We are sitting. So shout out Big Gene. He actually paid for all of this. Um, we are sitting. I want to say we're like the third or fourth row.
In regular seats, right?
Yeah,
All right, because I'm not trying to die, bro.
dude, and
They
all of
were
the closer
expensive,
stuff is very expensive.
like 700, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I couldn't do the pit again. It would legit kill me. I did it last time. It was really hard.
yeah,
Um, it's
yeah.
funny
We're
because
section 103, row 4.
perfect. It's funny because I'm going to Boston to see Rosie on like the 23rd, and Travis is performing at the TD Garden, and
That'd be sick.
me and her are going to that concert. So it looks like I'm going to go see Travis twice in the same month.
Let's go.
But yeah, so I'm going on the 10th, and then I'm going on the 23rd at the TD Garden. So Travis, let me know what's up, man. I'll be at both concerts. Show me some love, man.
Do you have your fit picked out?
I mean, I wear the same thing all the time. So like,
No, but actually, shout out Big Gene. He hooked it up. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
it'll be absolutely electric. And that guy, I mean, I don't know. Have you ever been to a Travis concert before?
I went when he was at Penn State when he was on his Astro World tour,
Yeah,
and he
I
had
went
that
to
big ass. Um,
the roller coaster in the back.
yeah, it was sick.
I will say that his concerts never disappoint. The energy's
No, they're awesome.
crazy. Every song's a banger, obviously. So I'm excited, and shout out to Big Gene and for a big night with the boys. So
I
go
was I was gonna text him and ask him if I could share it with you on the pod,
Cat.
but I figured that he was too excited and would want to tell you
Yeah,
himself.
he called me. He called me.
He called me.
He,
He was like, "All right, I was like, I just got him," and he was like, "All right, I'm about to call Steve right now." I was like, "All right."
yeah, he was fired up, man. Like, so great gift idea, and fucking like I said, I'm fired up. A bit real quick, I got a big second interview at PA Media tomorrow, so hopefully
Let's
there's
go.
some good news coming out of that camp, and so I'll know by 1 tomorrow if that works out. So, hey, maybe things are trending upward for me currently, so I'll keep you updated.
And I heard we're about to win all of our bets this weekend. So
That dude, that doesn't sound too likely. Everything else sounded good up to that. Like, I hope,
oh,
but
there's no way. But no, that's
there's no
great. Good luck.
All right, brother. I'm gonna put
You'll
this up
kill it. I'll
tonight.
text you.
I'm gonna put this up tonight, so I'll have it up.
All right. Go
See you,
Birds.
brother.